Land of Unreason by L. Sprague de Camp and Fletcher Pratt. Published in 1941. Cover art by Ed Cartier. Or Cartier. It's Cartier. So, Cartier? Let's go with that. I picked up some Conan books off of an online seller, and we were messaging back and forth, and we actually live fairly close to each other, and I ended up tipping him a couple extra dollars. So he ended up giving me a couple extra books, and it was very nice. And I was flipping through them, and it was like a couple more. So there was like 6 Conan books. He gave me a couple more Conan books, and then there was a couple other books in the set. So I was flipping through the books, and I flipped over Land of Unreason, and I saw the elf was drunk to begin with. I believe that's what it says. Let's double check. Yes, the elf was drunk to begin with. And I thought that was the best. Good job. I thought that was just like the funniest line to have at the back of the book. The elf was drunk to begin with. And even though I bought all these like really cool Conan books, I don't know, that just line just stuck out to me. So I knew based on the back of the book that the elf was drunk to begin with. I knew this was top on my list of things to read next. I don't have a TBR. I just kind of feel out what I want to read, based on the name of the channel. There's not a real lot of planning that comes into what I'm going to read next. So a funny pull quote on the back or a funny little blurb on the back might just move top to the list. I just had finished some Jim Butcher and some Edgar Rice Burroughs books, and the prose in The Land of Unreason were a bit different than that. Those, like, not that they write simply, but they're just, I don't know, Edgar Rice Burroughs and Jim Butcher, just, I can read their stuff very quickly, and I'm not a fast reader at all. And I know there's usually when you kind of switch from one when you switch from one author to another author, there's usually like a little bit of like, okay, I got to get used to this, just the way they're writing, their style and everything. But I almost DNF'd it a couple times in the beginning because I had to like reread it, and it wasn't like a bad thing. I was enjoying it, but I just felt like, I was like, man, it's just like, maybe it's just not clicking. And I don't like to DNF books because I feel like I'm never gonna pick them back up. But I mean, sometimes you do have to put a book down. But I was glad I stuck with it. The basic plot of the story is it follows Fred Barber. He's an American diplomat recuperating in Yorkshire, like a Yorkshire cottage during World War II. But it's during St. John's Eve, and the hostess leaves out a bowl of milk for the fairies to prevent them from stealing her baby. It's apparently a local myth. She leaves out a bowl of milk. The fairies come, drink the milk, don't steal the baby. Well, Barber, believing, like, during his recovery, he's recovering from a head trauma, decides to steal the milk, drink it himself, and then leave whiskey in return, which this causes the elf to get drunk, grab Barber, and then bring him off to the land of Faerie, where they think he is a baby. And this was kind of like in the beginning where I was like, I'm struggling a little bit with the prose of the book, but it's damn entertaining, this whole idea that they think he's just the world's biggest baby, not in the sense of he's acting like a child. They take babies. Eventually they realize that he's not a giant baby, and he's taken to the king and queen, King Oberon and Queen Tatiana, and tasked with a dangerous mission to save Faerie, and then he can return to his timeline. Barber is given Tatiana's spear, I believe. He's giving Tatiana's magic wand, and it creates food and detects sorcery. So it's one of those, like, it felt like it's sort of like a strange, like, D&D, magic item. Like, it makes food and it can detect magic. And his first adventure is to find the Kobolds. They are the only ones in the land that can handle iron, and they're forging. King Oberon and Tatiana believe that they're forging weapons of war to march over the land. And this is another book that definitely has World War. It's very interesting, the books I've been reading lately, that I do not realize that they were so based on World War II. Like this one's written during 41, so war is going on. Definitely some thematic themes for World War II. Then the rats, which depending on when things are edited and cut together and posted, is post-World War II with the aftermath of London rebuilding. So the land of Faerie is experiencing these things called shapings, and they're sort of, that's where the unreason kind of comes in, of the nonsense that could just happen. Like even during a conversation, like a character's motivations can change, the environment can change, like things just sort of happen around the land. And Fred's sort of coping mechanism is just to like, I'm just going to believe that nothing is real. I'm just going to, like, if I stop to try to analyze any of this, it's just going to be, it's not going to be, like, if I, like, he's pretty much like reserved to just, I just have to get home and nothing's going to make sense and I'm not going to try to figure it out. I'm just going to move from point A to point B and survive and do the best that I can. During his adventure, Barber's also going through a bit of body horror. This isn't a horror book or anything, but he has these humps growing in his shoulder blades that he believes are wings. And so he's kind of going through those transformations. He kind of goes through another transformation when he has a slowdown, like a lull in his quests, and he almost starts becoming like a toad. And then he does actually full on, spoiler alert, transform. But yeah, he does experience a lot of transformations, you know, through the wings on his back. He's almost transforming into like a toad at one point when he slows down, and then just other craziness just happens to him throughout the book. So my early struggles, it's hard when talking about books with other people. Like I screw up with lots of reading problems. So I don't know if it's just me. So I don't take reading struggles as a flaw so to heart if you're somebody that's never has struggled with reading. So I struggle a little bit with the prose. There's kind of like a sing-song way the characters talk, and I don't know if that comes from like the Yorkshire kind of influences or where it kind of comes from, but there is sort of like a rhymey, sing-songy way, and because of the land of Unreason, and I think that was sort of which I don't know if this was purposeful, but I sort of became Barber in a lot of the ways. Of it was just like, I don't know what the heck this person's saying. I'm just going to move forward and keep reading. And I think that sort of helped out a lot. It doesn't happen very often, and I don't feel like you're going to miss a lot. But the thing that makes up for it is there's like some sword fights in the high action, like scenes in it are written very well. And I feel like that balanced really well. It kept me into it. Plus Barber's internal prose and his internal dialogue isn't confusing. So if I found myself confused with a random character he meets along the way and kind of just read it, reread it, or whatever, got through it, I could pick up from what Barber was saying or kind of move on. I also Googled a couple things, especially towards the end of the book, just to kind of understand a couple things. But like I said, the action scenes, there's a battle towards like the middle, not the middle, but like last quarter of the book that's so well written. That stuff is just really, really kept me into the book. So Barber's quest takes him to 3 places. And it's really interesting because the first place is very Alice in Wonderland, like how he kind of gets there and going to see the Kobolds. The second place it felt very gothic. He's in a farm. There's some like weird stuff with the timeline kind of going on, like why the farm's there, the person that he meets there. And then the latter half of the book is very like sword and sorcery, high fantasy, I felt, and that was really cool. So it reminded me kind of like, this book kind of reminded me of like Zelda, the Link's Awakening, the weird one with all the Twin Peaks kind of vibes to it. That's kind of how it felt. So like it felt very adventure like bookish too. Like he's got to go to these 3 places. You know, he loses the wand really quickly in the book, so he's already kind of like through sort of ignoring the ridiculousness that's going around. He's already kind of making mistakes and stuff. So my final thoughts on the book is it's not one of those modern, I'm trying to not be like a Netflix show about it where it's like the first 2 episodes are terrible and then the rest of it's good. This is a good book. I had some personal issues with the prose, but I think I'm going to chalk that up to just my reading problems. Then I really enjoyed the set pieces that I really enjoyed his adventure. Once I realized that if I just don't understand what's going on in the world, that's okay. There was always going to be something next that Barbara's going to go through to kind of bring you back into the book. The action scenes were fantastic. It was the end, though, that really sold me on the book. It is the last few pages of this book that I was like, oh my God. And I don't want to recommend a book to tell people that just read it for the ending because you might not like it as much as I do. But I enjoyed this book. And once I was done reading it, I did kind of look up. There were some motivations and some things I quite didn't understand. So there's a character named Melisea. It's Malacea. Melisea, whatever. She's kind of like a trickster love interest of Barber. And I kind of looked up some unanswered questions about her. And I started reading some reviews. And this is a very beloved book. Like, people who read this book really enjoy it. And I feel like that's my feelings towards the end. Is I went in a little bit confused, a little bit didn't understand what this book was kind of doing, enjoying parts. And then you hit the end and it was like, oh, this is okay. This is where it was going. This is really, really cool. And I feel like this is a book that I would love to reread because I think that's where you're going to get a lot more of enjoyment out of it. Like, if you go into it and you don't like it, that's fine. But I think that if you really, that ending hits you and you enjoy it, it's going to be a really good reread. So I feel like I'll pick up more of the clues throughout and kind of enjoy it. And this is kind of how things are. Like, some movies I used to hate, like, there's some movies you hate when you first watch them, and then you rewatch it later, and your life's a little different or something's going on, and they just hit you in a different way. And I feel like that's what this book was. It was perfect. This silly kind of back quote pulled me in. It was this weird adventure. I felt lost, just like Barber did, and then just have this really cool climax ending. How about we say this really cool ending and not say climax? It's weird when you read a book that's not going to be like your favorite of the year, but it's probably going to be the book that sticks with you throughout the year. And I feel like that's what Land of Unreason was for me. There are other books I read I may have enjoyed more or would recommend more, but I feel like this is the book that personally it left a mark, and I would love to read it down the road and see how my feelings about it changed or grow. So, all right. Till next time. Books are movies for your brain. All right, bye.